Good morning.
Good morning.
Ambassador Rahm Emanuel. Wow, we've been through a lot together.
Let's practice that. Say it again, Marianne. It's really good. It's therapeutic.
Well, we're glad to have you back. Can you tell us why you're here?
Yeah, one is every time I come to the States, I want to make sure I see my mother. So that was it.
And how is she?
She is good. Thank you for asking. Thanksgiving, we all got together. We did Thanksgiving as a family, with everybody scattered everywhere. But it was also her 90th birthday. And so whenever I come to the States, I obviously used to live here. Now I'm in Tokyo, so I always do that. And then the foreign minister for Japan is going to meet the Secretary of State in D.C., so I'm heading there this evening, and we have a meeting there, and I have a series of meetings at the White House, and then a meeting with the Commerce Secretary. So Washington and Chicago.
So you're able to drop in for a moment and see everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're obviously...
Mom, Marianne.
Tell us...
You're in the same category. That may not be good.
I think we might share some personalities. Yeah. While you're in Chicago, you obviously have a lot of, you know what's going on in the city, and there's people who are worried post being in charge. What's going on? What's your sense? You still talk to people. You might not live here, but there's a lot of...
I still am a homeowner here. So
Good deal. I mean, there's a lot of uneasiness. What's going on?
Well, look, I mean, I think my view is you got to focus, again, I'm not here day to day, but stepping back may also give you a perspective. I think there are some basic fundamentals that have to get done, from transportation. As you know, when I worked on the universities, we worked on an agreement between the University of Chicago and Tokyo University on quantum computing. That's not going to pay today, but that's going to be like a dividend that keeps paying from a job creation, new businesses. That's all going to be very, very good. And we're about to actually expand that in the next week to include a South Korean university in quantum, and you're going to get a lot of benefit from that. So you have universities, you have job training and education, you have your transportation system, you have your cultural offerings. Those things need to be invested because they are the economic engine that keeps this city in the world-class status that it is. And that's what I would, the fundamentals are key. And then what I always call in the neighborhoods, my view at least is you focus on the 5 Ps of the public. Public schools, public safety, public libraries, public parks, public transportation. You get those right, every neighborhood can succeed. And
now, though, we've got a migrant issue. It's overwhelming the city. Every day there's a new story, a new wrinkle, a new whatever. Any advice?
Well, first of all, if I give that advice, it's private, but you got to work. The best advice I would give is you're a team. Governor, county, mayor, working in partnership, making sure you speak with one voice to Washington, and also handling it. Obviously, people are trying to politicize it. First and foremost, get our hands around what's happening at the border, which is what the president's doing, and making sure that as we are, my general rule is we're a country of laws and a country of immigrants, and we need to keep those in balance and same perspective. But the team here has to work as a team, both in getting resources from Washington and then approaching the problem. And it is a challenge. Some
are going to argue that the president doesn't have a handle on it. I mean, there's more than ever migrants crossing.
Well, first of all, this is a long-term problem. It's an endemic problem from the fact that the immigration system, the laws that we have and the enforcement of the laws and the laws that we don't have are broken. That's why my approach is, as both the son and the grandson of an immigrant, we are a nation of immigrants, but we're also a nation of laws. And you can't allow illegal immigration to undermine people's respect for the law. And the American people are very supportive. But they also believe, and when I say that, supportive of immigration, as long as it's done in respect for the law. And you can't have what's called illegal immigration, and what it is, undermine people's support for the laws that we have. So there's an approach to that, but I would say, the last real immigration law goes back to 1986 under Ronald Reagan. So the system needs to be modernized to what was happening in 1986 is now what's happening in 2024. And we need to modernize the system, and what's happening at the border is a reflection. It's both a challenge in and of itself, but it's also a reflection of a larger problem of dealing with the overhaul of the entire system, and then not just at the border, but at the workplace, at what is also going to be legal versus not legal immigration. So it's kind of endemic of that, as well as its own problem, or challenge, rather.
All right. It's no secret that there wasn't much of a relationship with former Mayor Lightfoot. You seem to have one with Mayor Johnson. What do you see as what happened there with the Lightfoot administration and yours? Yeah, just a breaking off. No one talked.
Well, I mean, there's certain people were kept, certain weren't. That's the past. What's more important is the future. We try to, I think, run the right type of transition, and we obviously had different styles as well as different approaches. But that said, as you know, in general rule, I don't talk about my predecessor. I didn't blame them. Our job is to solve problems. With Mayor Johnson, I'm gonna, I live here, I pay taxes here. I want him to succeed. It's what I said when he got sworn in, and I hope he does succeed, because his success means our city's going to succeed, and I want him to succeed. And I'm always here. There's only a few people around that ever sat in that chair, and there's sometimes. Like when we had I wouldn't call it a migrant issue, but when you had the natural disaster in Puerto Rico, we had to deal with 7,000 people coming in. Now, it's nothing compared to what's happening now, but there's a way to handle that. And if you sat in that chair, you have some perspective on that nobody else, as I like to say, everybody has.
Is he listening?
Well, the times doesn't mean he has to. Yes, he's listening. Doesn't mean he's going to execute. Some things he'll agree with. We also have a different philosophy, but we're going to have a dialogue and a conversation because I want him to succeed.
Let's look ahead. Next week is the Iowa caucus. You certainly have been there. What is it, 16 years post-Obama? It's wild. This time it's just the Republicans, but it sure does look to be the beginning of a coronation for Trump.
I mean, the smart money would say that. First of all, I got to be really careful because ambassadors are not political. I have a bubble above my head that has lots of thoughts. I'm not allowed to express them. My general rule is, first of all, if you tell the voters this is what's going to happen, they're going to tell you something else. And so the smart money says exactly what you just said. Sometimes smart money is pretty stupid. I'm not ready to, now I'm going to step back and I want to just say, I got to watch myself so I don't cross any political lines. There's an expectation for Trump, an expectation for DeSantis, and an expectation for Nikki Haley. The question is what story comes out that night, and the real story will be, did you meet, exceed, or fall short of expectation? It's not what was Trump's number, what was Governor Haley or Governor DeSantis' number. It's what did you do versus yourself. By way of example, in 1984, Walter Mondale was a front runner. He took 49.4%, but Gary Hart was a story because he beat Gary Hart's expectations. Mondale beat him by like 30 points, if I'm remembering this correctly. So then if Trump, there's an expectation. Does he exceed it or fall short of it? And they're going to have, and these are one of those, and that's true for all three candidates, and then what is the percentage between them? And you're going to have weather. And that's, for a caucus, that's a big deal. For an election, that's a big deal. For a caucus, it's a real big deal.
Will they show up?
Yeah, and who has an operation? So so my view is, usually if smart money says this and people are telling the voters this, voters always have a curveball in their back pocket.
You have even been mentioned in some articles to come home and run the political campaign for Biden. No interest.
No, I mean, I want President. I'm not a political appointee, even though I am a political appointee as ambassador. I'm ambassador. I love being ambassador. I'm really enjoying it. I think the president has done an excellent job in the region when you think about what he's been able to accomplish, and I'm very honored to have his confidence and help execute it. So
that is not a no.
Well, I mean, it's not a no. Nobody's ever talked to me except for reporters, so let me say it that way. No, I mean, I expect and I want to finish my tenure doing the job I have and the assignment I have to be the U.S. ambassador to Japan. It's your number one ally in the region and probably your number one ally in the world.
So if there is a Biden win, will you stay in that post?
Well, first of all, let me just get through the next year. You serve at the leisure of the president. Now, but as the history is, ambassadors serve the term. The only person that didn't do it in Japan, Senate Majority Leader Mansfield is appointed by Jimmy Carter. At the end of Jimmy Carter, obviously Ronald Reagan wins. Ronald Reagan asked Senator Mansfield to stay. He does stay, and then he stays all 8 years, but you serve the term. So every term that ends, you got to get renominated. I'm going to serve this term. I'm going to serve the whole time in Japan.
And my term, just to make it clear, it's a 4-year term. You're not talking about an 8-year term.
No, I'm talking about serving this term.
All right. And beyond that, you're not going to look ahead.
One more year. Look, I love this job. We've done together 4 things that everybody said could not happen. Not one of them. Japan was one of the first countries to go from 1% of their budget to 2% of GDP to defense, which will make it the 3rd largest defense budget in the world after the United States and China. They acquired capabilities called Counter-Strike Tomahawks, which is also something by history since World War II we're not going to do. 3rd, we initiated this historic agreement between Japan, the United States, and South Korea at Camp David, working on that. And then 4th, just recently as Christmas, worked through an agreement on being able to, the United States, to repurchase Patriots that they manufacture under license. All 4 of those things, right before I left 2 years ago, everybody said not one of those things can happen. We've done 4 of them. We're working on a number of things, both on the security front, the cultural front, and the economic front, that I think will be these 3 years, which is what I said when I got at the Senate. The next 3 years will be the foundation. The next 3 years will determine the next 30 years. And I do think this period of time will be seen as both the transitional and transformational. Doing certain things on space, commercial, economic, and then culturally. Think about this. Some of the hottest baseball players from Japan.
Right.
Their movie, The Boy and the Heron, won the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
You have a series of animation movies that are hitting it off the park. And so from a cultural perspective and from kind of what's considered soft power, this is Japan's moment. And it's good for us when our ally is, hitting it at every side, offense and defense.
As long as we're talking, and that means, I guess, me talking about the election, not so much you.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to skate around that problem.
I get it. Is David Axelrod right when he suggested in his social media that perhaps the president should not run? His quote was, "What he needs to decide is whether that is wise, whether it is in his best interest or the country's."
Well, look, it's not just about President Biden. It's about, that would be true about anybody. You have to have a gut check about yourself, what you want to do, what your vision is, and make sure that you want to get that done. I don't think that's just for President Biden. I would say that's true for anybody that ever runs for office. And anyway, I know what you're trying to get at, and what I think is, and I don't want to get into litigating between David Axelrod's comments and the president. The president's made a decision. He's running for re-election. Again, I got to be careful. I serve it at his request. I've confirmed, obviously, by the Senate. I think I can tell you from the area I work on, he's done an incredible job, and you can see it by the way China's reacting. Incredible job in 3 years of putting both Japan, Korea on the same page, which is everything China did not want to see. Have Japan have the confidence to do certain things that they've for 70 years refused to do. Have the Philippines align themselves, have Australia. When you think about that, in that region of the world where it is economically, strategically, an incredible turnaround from where it was 4 years ago.
Should the president be tougher on Israel than he's been?
I don't think it's about being tough. I actually think that's the wrong tenor. I want to be, again, I got to be careful because now that's other people's homework. So I clearly, having worked on the Oslo Accords and the Y plantation with President Clinton and worked on this issue, I think tough would not be either his approach or style, but I think as a friend who has proven that he's a friend and is praised in Israel, I think honesty is what is the emotion or the kind of tenor of what I say as a friend. Friends tell people that are friends the truth. Now,
is he doing that?
Well, that's there's a lot of things happening that I don't know about. I'm in Tokyo. I'm not in Tel Aviv. Let me say this is also, as somebody that has worked on the peace processes with President Clinton and also with President Obama, you know, everybody wants a ceasefire. There was a ceasefire. I'm for the ceasefire that existed on October 6th. There was a ceasefire. Only one party violated it. Okay? We wouldn't be here if somebody didn't violate that ceasefire. Now, if you want a ceasefire, and I get it, there was one operable. Somebody chose to, and understood up front, there would be consequences. That doesn't mean anybody supports, you know, what they see every night on the news. It's horrific. On the other hand, starting early on, I was consulting the professors in Israel who were documenting the rape and the murder and literally taking a baby out of a mother and cutting it. And I've been working with the professors there, and I have personally supported them. So I just think people should remember how we got here, what happened. There is tragedy happening. I say this in kind of, you know, both professionally and then morally and then personally, you know, you have a lot of feelings about this. But there was not just a ceasefire. There were 20,000 Palestinians working in Israel from Gaza Strip, more than any other Arab country. One party decided to put that all at risk. Actions have consequences. And it's horrific watching families' homes get destroyed. It's more than horrific. Your heart goes out. You have women who've had their body parts raped, cut, babies torn out of the womb of a mother. That occurred. It's all on tape. And the international organizations, not a word. Nothing. Because they're Jewish.
And your own home in Michigan.
Yeah.
To have that happen, to have the word Nazi written on your fence.
You know, look, Marianne, we've known each other a long time. This is not the first time I've ever faced anti-Semitism. I do want you to know, I could either just talk about that or I could talk to you about, which is where I'm at. Unbeknownst to us, because I was going to hire somebody to go paint it and spray, a neighbor flipped the wood around so the word would be removed immediately. But and still hasn't come forward and told me who did it. I saw every year as mayor, I held a Ramadan dinner. The Islamic community here in Chicago condemned it. You know, my general rule, it's hard to hate up close. And people did things that reflect, I think, our sense of community. I'm Jewish. The Islamic community supported me when I was attacked as a Jew. A neighbor who I don't know their faith, volunteered and without calling us or doing anything, turned things around. So the word Nazi did not appear in my house. So I can either deal with the hatred and the ugliness, which exists. I've seen it when I run for office, both for mayor and for Congress. And I can also deal with the fact that you had people who I think showed the better angel. And I'm not going to lose sight of the hatred, but I am going to make sure that it never silences the goodness of people. And there is a lot of good. And I'm you know, when I ran for, I think you remember this. When I ran for Congress, a leader in the Polish community said some very ugly things. I was the only candidate out of 5 required to show my birth certificate. And as you know, one of the tropes of anti-Semitism is you're not one of us. And I said then, and I believe, I had met people at grocery stores, L stops, on their front stoop. I know the people of Chicago, or that district. They're good people with good values, teaching their kids right from wrong. I have total confidence in their judgment. And it turned out to be right, because I think there's a goodness there. Was there ugliness? 100%. I will focus on, and I will deal with ugliness, but I will not let it silence or drown out the goodness.
Well, before we go, I know that you want to tell us about community colleges.
Yes.
That's always been one of your cornerstones.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly focused on it during your term. What's new? What should we know about that?
Well, I wrote a piece recently on Cranes. 2024 is the 10-year anniversary of the Chicago Star Scholarship. We were the first city, and now it's the longest-running free community college program run by a city ever. And the data is overwhelming. I mean, there's 18,000 kids that went to community college for free. 11,000 of them first in the family to ever go to college. They're graduating debt-free. Their grade point average, their retention rate, and their completion rate is far higher than both other students at community colleges here in Chicago or the national. And so it's an experiment that nobody had ever tried. Others now are replicating in Los Angeles, et cetera. But we now know that the free community college program based on earning a B average, getting it free, tuition, books, transportation, is an incredible success in dealing with college affordability and income inequality. And Chicago, you have this massive debate about student loan forgiveness. Chicago actually has an answer to this problem. And I'm proud of it because also for hundreds of reasons, because I think we live in a period of time where you earn what you learn. And high school should not be the end point of our commitment. And I don't think any parent should take a second job or a second mortgage to give their kids a shot at the American dream. You don't do it. You did it. You gave your kids love and an education. It's what you gave your children. It's what you got. It's what I gave mine. For other parents, it's much tougher. And we got to make sure that high school is not the end because they can't make this. And you're never going to fail as a city if people are getting an education. Never.
Well said, Ambassador Emanuel. Always good to see you. Thank you.
Hold on one second.
Yes.
Say that one more time. Let me say this.
Yeah.
No, as I said to Hillary Clinton, when Hillary Clinton came, I said, did you ever think when we were in Little Rock at the paint store, Rahm Emanuel and Ambassador would be at the same sentence? She goes, I didn't think it would be on the same page.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.